It's time to sit back, relax, and listen to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life will inspire, motivate, and empower you. Live your best life now. Listen, learn, think, and decide. Change your attitude, change your life. And now, here's your host, Joan Herman.
Welcome to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. I'm Joan Herman. Thanks for tuning in. Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life brings you interviews with some of the most inspirational and influential people in the world. It's our goal to educate and empower you so you can live your best life now. Thank you for taking time for yourself, and thank you for letting us be a part of your life. We have another great show for you today. Do you fear aging and believe that the best of life is behind you? According to today's guest, Thomas Moore, aging should be cherished as a series of initiations rather than viewed as a diminishing existence. He teaches how we can utilize our acquired experience and maturity to take life on, embrace it, and feel fulfilled. Thomas is a New York Times bestselling author of Care of the Soul, as well as many other books on deepening soul and cultivating mindfulness. He's been a monk, a musician, a university professor, and a psychotherapist. Today he lectures on holistic medicine and spirituality. His upcoming book is Ageless Soul, The Lifelong Journey Toward Meaning and Joy. Welcome, Thomas. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Joe.
So, Thomas, this is such an interesting conversation, and I think it's an important topic. And what was so funny, when I was getting ready for us to speak, I turned on a local radio station that I hadn't listened to in a number of years. And the last time I did, it was a quote-unquote oldie station, and that meant the music was from the 50s and the 60s. Well, this morning when I listened to it, the music was my generation. And I thought to myself, how did I become a child of the oldies music? And for a moment, I had that little pang inside of me, and I said, oh my gosh, I'm getting old. And I thought, what a great lead-in for today's conversation. As we're aging, it's so easy to fall into that limiting mindset that we're no longer relevant and that we have no options. And quite frankly, the messaging in our society reinforces those beliefs. But you say that we should embrace it. So let's talk about why you believe that.
Yes, I think that most of us have these moments in our lives when we suddenly realize that we're getting older. And that can happen at any time. I know people in their teens who have that experience. You know, it's a lifelong thing. So we're aging all the time. And I think that if we could have a positive attitude toward aging when we're younger, we'd have a better chance of feeling good about aging when we get older. I'm not saying that aging is ever completely 100% wonderful. It isn't. There are a lot of things that we can't do when we get older. But when you look at it from a certain angle, we are getting better, and we are hopefully becoming more of the person that we are capable of being. And that really is a pleasurable thing. So I think it all depends on your angle, you know, how you look at it, how you deal with this pang, as you called it. You know, I think that's right. The pang is such an important feeling. You mentioned the word initiation. The pang is like that sting into awareness that you wouldn't have otherwise.
And you mentioned the importance of having a positive attitude. There are some cultures, for example, menopause for women. There are some cultures where menopause is looked at as a second spring. And those women don't exhibit the same type of symptoms as a society that looks at it as an end, you know, the beginning of something horrible. So where do we begin then in changing our mindset about aging?
Well, first of all, I think it's a general question. We live in a world that is not terribly profound. You know, the culture that we live in, especially here in the United States today, is a bit superficial. I don't want to make a total generalization because there's so many good things going on here. But as a culture, I think that we tend to look at things externally. And medicine and psychology and so many of the fields are all turning us into quantities, you know, like numbers. They measure us and do studies. We don't believe or trust in in-depth reflection anymore. And so we have to resist the world. This is my general point. We have to, in our own lives, have to resist the culture around us. And the culture around us doesn't see aging in a positive light. Like the story you're told of another culture, seeing menopause in a positive way. Well, we would have to do some work to shift. But that means that each individual can right now make that shift. And I think that's what I want to do. I want to invite people not to participate fully in the world around them and say, look, I'm getting older, but I can do it in my own way. I can actually stay in touch with my youth, for example. I don't have to just change my body. I can actually grow older as a person. I use the word soul myself to describe that inner life, that where we find meaning. So if we could get in touch with that youth of the soul, I think that we would have a chance not to just automatically and unconsciously participate in the world around us.
Thomas, your work has been focused on the soul and the spirit, and you've written books about nurturing, healing, and caring for one's soul. And you just said that, to you, the soul is the inner life where we find meaning. How does that differ from our spirit?
Well, the spirit is that part in us, that element in us that wants to think about a future, wants to be adventurous and creative and full of energy going forward. Or we want to have a big overview. We want to meditate so that we have a very large consciousness. We want to pray so that we are related to a world beyond us. We think about afterlife. All of that is the realm of spirit. The realm of soul is much closer to home. In fact, the word home is very important. So I think soul actually begins in home, like taking care of your house and your family, your neighbors, having friends over. Friendship has been considered for centuries one of the most important aspects of caring for the soul. So that kind of very, very personal, very down-home life that is deep, that goes very deep. Deep emotions, deep relationships, deep thoughts. That is the life of the soul.
So as we age then, it's important to keep working on those deep parts, having those relationships and finding what gives us that inner joy. And it's equally important then to keep the spirit alive, because I think, looking forward to the future, because I think that's the part that really, it's the part that we lose as we age. We stop looking forward to things. So it's equally important then to have both of those in balance.
Yes, I agree completely. I probably wouldn't use the word balance myself, because I think sometimes in life the spirit is very strong and sometimes the soul is. It goes back and forth. It's like yin and yang, and it's in motion. So, but yes, I think both are extremely important. If you don't have a good life of spirit, if you're not adventurous, and if you don't have a positive attitude toward future, then it's very difficult to deal with aging. In fact, in this book, I have a chapter on legacy, which has to do with the future, thinking about the people who are going to follow you, or dealing with young people, helping young people out. All of that keeps you alive and young because it is that spiritual part of yourself, which is very close to your youth. So I think, yes, the spirit is very, very important.
Tom, do you think sometimes when people lose the sense of spirit and they lose that sense of adventure and looking forward, there's sadness that comes from that, because you kind of lose hope. You think the best is behind you. And when that happens, they often say that they get depressed. But I think there sometimes might be a difference between being depressed and just being sad or melancholy. How can you tell what that difference is and when someone is truly depressed?
Well, depression feels more like a sickness. It's something that comes on you, and it doesn't. It prevents you from doing your work. You feel like giving up. Often there are suicidal fantasies involved in it, and it's a clinical problem. But the trouble is today that we use the word depression very loosely. We use it for almost every feeling of sadness. I'd recommend a couple of things. One is to be very specific about the feeling you have. Don't use a big generic word like depression. So one day if you wake up and you feel, let's say you feel like you're missing your old friends. A lot of older people feel that way. They don't have the friendships that they used to. People die off or move away. And if you could specify that, say, I am missing my friends, rather than say, I'm depressed. Mm-hmm. If you can be aware, what exactly, specifically what you're experiencing, then you can do something about it. If you say you're depressed, then you might be tempted to think of it almost like a medical sickness. And it doesn't have to be that. It might be something that is more an aspect of the meaning of your life and, the things that give you pleasure in life. And you use the word melancholy. I have a chapter again on this book on melancholy, making this point that very old texts, the very old texts that I often rely on, say that melancholy has benefits to us. And I can understand that. We need a range of feeling to be alive and to be humans. If we were happy all the time, that's kind of sickness in itself, you know.
Mm-hmm.
If you ever meet somebody who's always happy, you wonder about them. So I would say that the melancholy and sadness that comes along in old age does its work. It's an important thing to have. And I think if you cooperate with it, it won't dominate.
Now, as we age, you just said more and more people will die off. You're more likely to lose friends and loved ones. But that type of grief can occur at any age, and you actually wrote a book about that, Dark Nights of the Soul. So what strategies do you offer that can help us heal at any age at the soul level?
Well, there are so many things to do. For example, you might, as I said before, when you're wondering about your soul and you feel yourself being kind of sick in the soul, that kind of thing, the first thing to look at is where you're living and how you're living. Home, in other words. So you ask yourself, am I living in the right place? A lot of people are just in the wrong place. You know, they really need to be somewhere else. I hear that story over and over again. People move because of a job, and they never adjust to the place they move. Well, maybe they ought to look to the place and then find a job there. Another thing you can do is, as I said before, friendship is so important. You can always make new friends. And the idea there is, I think, is that service and taking care of the people around you, like you're being a good neighbor and taking especially care of the sick and young people around you can keep you alive, making you feel alive. So you don't wait for friends to come along, for a friendship to happen. A lot of people despair of that. I think what you have to do is find your friends by going out actively into the world and offer yourself, to volunteer or to just visit people who are sick, or be more responsive to your neighbors instead of hiding out on your own. All of that can wake up your soul and make a big difference.
The book is Ageless Soul, The Lifelong Journey Toward Meaning and Joy by Thomas Moore. If you would like to get more information about Thomas and his work, you can visit his website, thomasmooresoul.com. That's thomasmooresoul.com. Thomas, thank you so much for being here and for providing insights that can help us take on and embrace the next chapter of our life. We're all getting older. There's nothing we can do about it. So like a fine wine, why not get better with age? So thank you for being here.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it very much.
We'll be right back. Hi, this is Joan Herman, host of Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. Did you know that Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life has a free monthly digital magazine that can be read online or emailed to your inbox? Every month, nationally recognized leaders in their field provide information to educate, inspire, and motivate you. We believe in a holistic approach to life, incorporating mind, body, and spirit. Check out a copy of Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life 24/7. Visit cyacyl.com and be sure to tell your friends. Thank you for joining us. I hope you found the show informative. At Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life, we believe that knowledge is power. Take what you've learned, apply it, and live your best life now. Remember that the information provided are the opinions of our guests and should never replace the advice of a professional who knows your personal situation. If you'd like more information, visit our website, cyacyl.com. While on the site, listen to past shows on demand, read our digital magazine, take part in the book club, check out our team, and be sure to follow the show on social media. Until next time, this is Joan Herman. Thanks for tuning in.